So in November of 2001, Nintendo released the GameCube onto the marketplace, and I don't think that fans realized at the time what kind of console we were witnessing from Nintendo. Historically, if you look at the sales figures, it did not perform the strongest compared to the successor, which was the Wii, 100+ million unit seller, and even various other consoles throughout Nintendo's history. But if you look back at the games that we saw released on the platform, it has quickly, with time, become one of the most beloved library of games of all time in Nintendo history, period. And while we've seen Nintendo start to shift focus to adding in their retro library of games into Nintendo Switch Online, with today supporting systems such as Game Boy through Game Boy Advance and NES, SNES, and N64, it is not a logical conclusion at this point in time that we should expect GameCube games to be added into the service anytime soon, as we are rather seeing Nintendo stick to somewhat of a interesting strategy with their GameCube library so far, which is the ports and remasters route, as it was the last console that Nintendo competed on power against the other guys, meaning it was on par, if not more powerful than the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, the competitors of that generation. And a lot of these GameCube games, if just given a basic HD overhaul, an up-res, and some touch-up on the graphics and textures, can be resold, and we are seeing that with very successful debuts of games like Metroid Prime Remastered. We have also seen Super Mario Sunshine from the GameCube make it over in the way of a collection pack from Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Baten Kaitos was a game that was featured at the most recent Nintendo Direct, another GameCube port, amongst many others that have made it to the console recently. And in today's video, we need to discuss yet another rumor that suggests an additional GameCube port that is very beloved by fans could be in the works and be headed to the Switch, and a broader conversation on the remaining GameCube games that would likely sell very well if brought to the platform, and how Nintendo may be padding out the rest of the Nintendo Switch release schedule as we shift our focus to potential new hardware talks, and a breakdown of where we should be setting our expectations for these potential ports and remasters headed to the Switch right now. Like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification if you enjoy GameCube games as much as I do, because I do think that it is a fair statement to say that this was a revolutionary library of games within Nintendo's history, and we have to first get on the same page with the latest rumor of a port/remaster potentially headed to the Switch, because we haven't had any shortage of reports, rumors, and leaks suggesting that numerous different projects are in the works right now for the GameCube library of games, and I do believe that we will see a lot of these individually released, very similar to the Metroid Prime strategy. And to first get on the same page with the most recent rumor that is being discussed and reported upon online, we have to quickly hop over to My Nintendo News and read through their detailed typed up article together. Rumor: Nintendo working on Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remaster for Switch. A member of the Famiboard forums who claims to be an investigative journalist has reportedly learned that Nintendo has been busy working on a Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remaster for the Nintendo Switch platform. The user says he has previously provided verified rumors to various YouTube channels while remaining in the background, as he doesn't like the attention. The user says that they have been in contact with 3 sources regarding the Paper Mario remaster. Always, this is a rumor and nothing has been announced by Nintendo. He's quoted here saying, "As some of you know, I do hobby journalism behind the scenes and research various things for fun. Some accurate Nintendo rumors that were reported by YouTubers and other sites in the past partially were based on my research. As I said, I don't like attention and thus always ask everyone to keep me private, which I intended to continue to remain private in those stories. However, now I have something super excited that I'm aware of. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remaster is finally happening and coming out soon. I have been in touch with 3 sources with this. One of them redirected me to the 3rd source who I hadn't interacted before, so it was just me cold messaging them on LinkedIn. Because this 3rd source wouldn't acknowledge the release date I had heard from the previous 2 sources, I'll just leave it as coming soon. I informed both Nintendo Prime and Nate Drake about this privately. There's one more person I have informed, but they wish to remain anonymous. I personally had always wished for a Thousand Year Door remaster. I never played it on GameCube, so I'm over the moon excited to finally play it on Switch soon. So I'll leave it up to you all to decide how much stock or faith to put into this rumor, but I do definitely think that a game that is this beloved by fans like A Thousand Year Door, arguably the best Paper Mario ever released, period, would make a lot of sense to be brought to the GameCube and resold, potentially Nintendo sticking to more of that $40 price point like we saw with Metroid Prime Remastered. I think that that makes a lot of sense for them to put out the games at that price. I do think with games like Zelda, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess, we may see a higher price, and we will tackle a broader conversation on those games in just a moment. But I do think that Nintendo is seeing very good success with Prime Remastered in terms of the fan response, in terms of the critic reviews, in terms of the sales data, and I don't think they had to spend a whole lot of money to get that game ready for remaster and re-released on the Switch, so it makes good business sense, especially whenever you look at their launch lineup on the Nintendo Switch from here. In years prior, we have had major releases just about every couple months, maybe a gap of 3 or 4 months that we didn't know about something in the pipeline or coming out. We had those far out games that we didn't know when they would be released, but you kind of had a general picture of what Nintendo was building up to in terms of new game releases. If you look at their official Nintendo Switch release schedule right now today, where it stands, you have Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom out May 12th and Pikmin 4 out July 21st. We have nothing else on their official release roadmap schedule. Now, yes, you can argue that we still have time for them to put on some kind of June time summer Nintendo Direct presentation that they historically align with E3 on, and they will not be doing that this year. We may still see that standalone presentation. I'm not entirely sold on that idea. I also think that we might just see something like a partner mini showcase like we saw in years prior, but there is also a big gap in releases, so it would make sense for them to put on something sooner than September in terms of new game announcements. But this does fall in line with what Nintendo likes to do at the end of a console generation, where they start to pad out their major releases, shift those to the new platform, and potentially give us ports and remasters in the meantime. We have heavy rumors from multiple sources suggesting that some kind of F-Zero GX project is in the works, and that's another one that I think is a perfect fit for that $40 price point that can be dropped onto the service and sold and given a second life in HD. While I am a big fan of NSO and enjoy playing the classic retro library of games, there are certain ones that I do believe are the perfect fit for NSO, and there are also certain games from the GameCube library that I believe have the justification to do a full-on remaster of. Metroid Prime being the biggest example from that list, and hopefully we're getting Prime 2 Echoes in that remaster conversation sometime soon as well. You then throw in Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, F-Zero GX, and the big ones we have to spend just a little bit of time on because people are still very frustrated with these leaks and rumors existing, but they've existed for years for a reason, and that is the claim that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD are essentially done and ready to go on the Nintendo Switch, but Nintendo is holding on to them for some kind of broader release plan that they have for them, and that's what you have to realize, is that we don't have all of the information from Nintendo's release schedule. In a year, in 2022, when Tears of the Kingdom got delayed, it seemed like it made all of the sense in the world to pad that release schedule for Zelda fans with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Granted, in hindsight, we now saw that 2022 was still a fairly stacked year for new Switch games, even without Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, and now we are in a year where Tears of the Kingdom is releasing, and it very well could be that Nintendo is planning towards the end of this year in 2023 or in 2024 to bring out those games as we transition to new hardware, whether they be launch games for the new hardware to help kickstart some of the sales process for it, or if they be holiday releases to carry us through if we have a lighter back half of 2023. This is likely more of a window that we would see Nintendo lean on those games, those fan classic favorites, as opposed to throwing them out 6 months before Tears of the Kingdom's release. So while none of this is confirmed at this point in time, I definitely think it's interesting with all of the rumors, reports, and leaks suggesting that there are multiple GameCube projects in the works from Nintendo right now, and I think when you look at it logically and from a business perspective, and the amount of work that actually goes into remastering these classic GameCube games, considering the graphical fidelity level that they were already at release, I definitely think that it makes sense for Nintendo to bring certain titles from that library over one by one, and then one day in the distant future, when we are playing on the successor to the Nintendo Switch, I do believe we will ultimately see that Nintendo Direct with an official reveal for the GameCube system being added into Nintendo Switch Online, and we will play a broader library of GameCube games in their classic form, probably still a forced 4:3 aspect ratio, except for maybe games that actually supported widescreen in their settings. I hope Nintendo gives us the ability to play any of these games in widescreen one day on the next gen console, but there's no telling for sure. But in the meantime, I do think that we can expect a lot of 2023's lineup to consist of one-off standalone GameCube remasters, and I'm hopeful that many of them are sold at that $40 price point. Although, like I mentioned, if I'm a betting man, even though we've seen Zelda, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess released once before in HD on the Wii U, I wouldn't put it past Nintendo to sell those as Wii U ports at that standalone $60 price point for each game. If we're super lucky, we get a bundle pack, but I don't know that Nintendo does that either. They very well might release them 6 months apart from each other, but I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, all your personal thoughts and opinions on the heavily rumored and reported upon GameCube games supposedly coming to the Switch over the last few years, and now where we stand in 2023. Do you think that there is now more or less credence to these rumors? And do you think that Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is indeed one of the projects that's in the works and ready to be revealed soon? Do you think Nintendo sticks to the formula that we saw with Metroid Prime Remastered, where they just shadow drop it the day of a direct presentation and then they give you a physical option a couple weeks later? Or do you think that Metroid Prime 1 Remastered and other GameCube games are maybe certain one-off projects, but we won't see a lot of the GameCube library brought over, and rather it will be saved for something like GameCube being added into NSO maybe sooner than we realize? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.